So I had a request from somebody asking me just to show them the food sources that we have on our little tiny, I keep calling it a farm. Wild dogs roam around here. Here's one, her name is Sarah the Wonder Dog. And just talk about what I've got going on right now in March of 2019 and food crops we grow and things of that nature. So I'll start here on our fence line. You can see a definite difference between lovely beautiful grass, big huge white oak tree, and torn up area with outbuilding. So every couple years we raise pigs. There's only two of us living here at the house right now, and Sarah the Wonder Dog. So we just raise a couple pigs and it lasts us about 2 years, and we put up a temporary fence here, and this is where they roam around and live, and then we take them to be slaughtered. We're not brave enough to do pig slaughtering on our own yet, but we do slaughter chickens. These are marionberries. They kind of took over, and we actually cut back on the amount of marionberries we had because we're growing more than we can eat at this point. This is our chicken coop setup. Unfortunately, when we were out of the country, a small pack of coyotes came and ate up our small flock of chickens. They also got part of the neighbor's flock, and well, several neighbors got hit. So right now we don't have chickens, and since we go out of the country pretty regularly, I don't know if we're going to get chickens for a while. Luckily my neighbors still have chickens, and so I'll get eggs from them. Blueberry patch, got 22 blueberry bushes here. I've got apple trees surrounding my little test garden here. I call this a test garden because this is where I test different ways of growing items, or different items that I've not grown before, different seed types or varietals. Right now I've got potatoes planted in here. I've been lucky that I haven't had to plant potatoes for years because, you know, when you plant potatoes and then you dig them up, there's always those little guys that get left behind, and then they grow them the next year. But they've been in the same spot for too long, and I wanted to change up where they're growing, so I put them in there. And I've got a pear tree in the chicken pen, big chicken pen. Sans chickens, another pear tree, maple trees, plum tree, plum tree, peach tree, or excuse me, that's not peach. Plum, peach, yeah, peach. Those are pears, not peaches. Let's see. These were all planted right about the same time, but they're certainly growing differently. Another peach. Apricot. 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 I have yet to see an apricot. So since these are as old as the big plum tree, I don't know if they're going to be staying here for much longer, or if I'm going to pull them up and put in something else, but we'll see. Let's just see how it goes. Sarah! Sorry about that. I've got above ground planting beds here. I've got 5 of them on the back side of the test garden. This one doesn't have anything in it yet. This I've got planted with several different seeds, cold crops, and I plant, I guess that's vertically, the short way in the bed, so it's easy for me to reach and get in. The long way would be fine, but anything in the middle would, I think, might be more difficult, but this is just the way I do it. So I've got some old spinach seeds I planted here. I've got these homemade labels, and you'll see I marked a 2 and a 3 for the different rows. Actually, I've got 4 rows of those because I wanted to finish off that package. And then I've got 3 rows of beets, and then spinach from last year, and I've got 3 rows of regular radish, 3 rows of daikon radish. I was unable to collect radish seeds last year, so the regular radish and the daikon radish come to me from MIGardener. He's also a great YouTube guy, and he's got a seed company, and his seeds are all 99 cents a pack, and they're non-GMO, organic, heirloom varietals, so I encourage you to check his stuff out. This is the first year I've grown with them, so I'll let you know how that goes. This is all garlic that I planted last year in the fall, and it's coming up very nicely. I tend to plant things too close together. I've had people criticize me on that before. However, I just plant what I'm feeling, right? And things just seem to work out. So even though I think this bed at first glance looks to be overplanted, it works for me. So these are about 4 inches apart. Let's see, that's 6 inches, right? So yeah, about 4 inches apart, but everybody seems to be pretty happy in this bed right now. Now some onions, carrots from last year, green onions that will turn into regular onions as well. These were dried onions for sale in the produce section of the grocery store. I think they're called cocktail onions or boiling onions or something, but they were like a little onion set, and they were very inexpensive, and so I picked them up and bought them and planted them, and they're growing. So I'm just gonna clean that plant up a little bit, get that off of there. I do this a lot, and I encourage you to do it too, because if a plant has something on it that's dying, it'll put a lot of energy into trying to repair that rather than growing. So every once in a while, I'll go through your plants and pick off the dead stuff. Okay, what do we have in this bed? Bok choy, carrots from last year, carrots from this year, and celery. It says old celery. I've got 3 rows of old celery. They're seeds from 2017, and then in my greenhouse, or my high tunnel, it's really a high tunnel. I call it a greenhouse, but it's really a high tunnel. I've got seeds over there started from 2018. So anyway, it's a way to differentiate, and then I can keep track of what it's going to grow best and save those seeds for next year. I've got basil in there, purple basil, green basil, and horseradish that's already starting to come up. This thing will get like 3 feet tall with huge leaves, and it is the bomb. Horseradish, clear your sinuses right up. It's a wonderful thing. These stock containers were here when we bought the property, 7 years ago. And this is where I keep my mature asparagus in there. If I plant it in the yard somehow or another, Mr. Old School Prepper tends to put some bad stuff on them, or he digs them up or does something and then they die. And you guys know, you need to have asparagus in the ground for at least 2 years before it starts really growing very well. Last year, my asparagus put out a bunch of seeds, which was awesome, so I'm going to try to grow from seed this year. I'll show you that in the high tunnel in a minute. This is a little herb garden. We've got thyme, oregano, some daffodils have decided that they like it here. A rose that I removed is coming back, but I've also started dill in there, coriander. This is lemongrass. I'm really hoping it comes back, but it was something I tried last year for the first time. So we'll see. We'll just see if it comes back. And there's some sage back there. I had a ton of basil, so I planted more basil here by the house. And here's just a kind of a catch-all bed. Some Swiss chard and some thyme and, stuff. Rosemary. Laurel stick I just shoved in there. We'll see if it grows. That's how this rosemary started to grow. It's been in this pot for years. That's another laurel bush. It's bay leaf too. Yeah, it's the same thing, bay leaf. So let's go around the house and I'll show you what's on the other side. And this is a very old rosemary plant. Hold on. Let's go on the other side of the house. Here's the big garden. I've got some Swiss chard here in the corner. It just keeps growing all year round here, and we eat it all year round. It's awesome. It's a rainbow varietal, and I don't know, just it likes it here. Got a mole or a vole that's digging holes. Check that out. Look how big that is. But you can see the little hole right there, which will be getting a trap very soon. And isn't that funny how we call them a trap, even though they're really a scissors that will just slice the vole in half instead of really trapping it? I don't know, why do we do that? Why don't we just call things what they are? Speaking of that, here's my greenhouse. It's really a high tunnel. I call it a greenhouse all the time, so I'm always misspeaking. I'll show you what we've got going on in here, and that'll be the end of our quickie tour. Let's see, I'm in the midst of doing some extra planting, but I'll show you what I've got going on in these containers and go from there. Okay, so I've got some lettuce all throughout here, walking onions, Hubbard squash, orange and white tiny small little pumpkins. They're the kind that people hollow out and they put soup into and stuff, but they're very good eating. Watermelon, cantaloupe, got pickles here. These are excuse me, they're not pickles. They're cucumbers that are going to be pickles, so they're pickling cukes. Lemon cukes, zucchinis, mammoth pumpkins, delicata squash, broccoli, bunch of cherry tomatoes, some corn. Corn is my nemesis. I can't get that stuff to grow here. My neighbors can, but I can't, so I don't know if I'll try that again. It's my last ditch effort on some old seeds. I've got various flowers here. I've got some poppies and some foxglove. Yes, I know it's digitalis. I won't be eating it. Dill, coriander, mustard greens, celery from this year. Remember, I planted some old seeds outside. Butternut squash, pimento, which is a beautiful, sweet, hot pepper. You know, I think to pimento cheese spread, but do you ever get those hot peppers that are stuffed with ham, usually prosciutto, wrapped around some cheese, and they're pickled and also soaked in olive oil? Well, that's the pepper they come from, is a pimento. So I've got two different varietals. I grew them last year. God, they're good. Hot red peppers, a Thai variety. Cherry tomatoes, Legion tomatoes, which is a medium-sized red slicing tomato. Paste tomatoes for making tomato paste. Brandywine tomatoes, and this whole rest of this flat is asparagus seeds. So I'm going to try to grow those into roots and plant them and see how that works. Black Russian sunflowers, mammoth sunflowers, also got these from MIGardener. Last year I put up, actually they're right over here, some sunflowers in my solar dryer, the heads, and put them in here before we left on our trip. And they've mildewed, so they're no good to me. So I ordered some sunflowers, which means these will go to the birds. Spinach, an indoor pot or a flat, so I can start eating spinach sooner than outside. More foxglove and wildflowers right now. And I've got my little temperature gauge in, and what is it reading? 55 degrees. Yesterday it was so warm that the soil in here got up to 90, which is too much of a swing for me, so I'm glad it's cooling down today. So that's it for food production so far this year. I will show you more as we go along, but that's March of 2019, and we'll see you guys later.